between outside and inside. And Emily said, I think it's cold in the house. Step outside. Book of Hosea. We're going to look at that. We're going to do an overview, get kind of context of the book. We introduced it last week. This is kind of what we're going to do, the plan. And we're going to look at the minor prophets as we go through here. And so we mentioned about, we don't know a lot about Hosea, but we know that he was a prophet in the nation of Israel. And his job was to try to call the nation of Israel to repentance. And so that was his job. And we know, based upon some of the things in this prophet and other prophets, and looking back at history, we understand that Israel, did they repent? No. Okay. So they're called to. God says these are consequences if they don't, but this is what's going to happen. So we look at this, and so we read the first verse last week. We also read the second verse. We're going to start there in verse 2 this evening. Like I say, questions, comments are not going to look at every verse in the book. But as we talked about last week, really the first 3 chapters, we have is talking about Hosea's personal life. And we understand the parallelism between the relationship that Hosea had with him and his wife, and the relationship between God and his people, right? And so we read verses 2 and 3. So when the Lord began to speak by Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, go take yourself a wife of harlotry and children of harlotry. The land has committed great harlotry by departing from the Lord. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of, it's a word I struggle with, Diblam, and she conceived and bore him a son. And so if we stop there just for a minute, we understand what was the reason that Hosea was supposed to go take this woman to be his wife.
Israel's acting the same way towards God.
So we have an object lesson, an illustration to understand what's happening. And I think we introduced this fairly well last week. We understand this was a very vivid illustration, wasn't it? Okay. If somebody come back. And so how did they commit harlotry? It tells us there in doing what? Departing from the Lord. And so we see that theme. We're going to see that in the prophets. Some of the words described that we see as harlotry, idolatry, adultery, right? And so while we're here, go to Isaiah 50. I mentioned this last week, and I thought maybe we just read. This is similar circumstances. Well, actually, the same circumstances, different prophet, but he's got the same message about the same things that are going to happen. And so what we're going to see here is the question that God asks us is, thus says the Lord, where's the certificate of your mother's divorce whom I have put away? What kind of question was God asking through Isaiah? A rhetorical question, wasn't it? What's the answer? He said, where's this certificate of divorce? The Jews would have been familiar with this because the law that was delivered by Moses regarding divorce in the book of Deuteronomy is they would have to have a certificate, right, to make it official. Okay? And so we understand the principles from Matthew, and we understand that you have a party that puts away the other one. They have to have a certificate of divorcement. He said, whom I have put away. Right? So the question that God's asking is, he says, why is Israel, who is my wife, why is she not there? And so God's asking, where's the document that shows that I have dissolved the relationship? Right? And what's the answer? There is none. Okay. And so we hear this illustration, and this is the principle we see here as we keep going in Hosea, is the illustration, about a couple who've been married for a long time. They're riding down the road in a pickup truck, and the husband is driving, and the wife's over there on the other side by the window, and the wife says, when we were dating and first married, I used to sit in the middle right next to you. And the husband says, as he's driving along, he says what?
I
Well, I haven't moved. Right? It's in the same place. You saw the illustration. You saw the same principle with Isaiah. Isaiah is asking the question to the nation, who's left who?
People left God.
People left God. God hadn't left them. Though that was really that accusation. So we come to verse 4. And we have a section here. We're going to read verse 4. And we're going to really look at the first 3 chapters in more detail than the rest of the book. We're going to look at some other verses and go through this. It says, then the Lord said to him, call his name. And so what we see here is the lovely name Gomer, right? So if you're picking out baby names, then you can go to the book of Hosea. Anyway, and so she conceived and bore him a son into verse 3. And the Lord said to him, call his name Jezreel, for in a little while I will avenge the bloodshed of Jezreel on the house of Jehu and bring an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. Now, several things in here as you think about, when did the kingdom of Israel begin? Their nation, but the nation said, they were different than any other government on the face of the earth when they left Egypt. Who was their leader?
Moses.
Then you have another leader follow, Joshua. Who was the leader after that? Who were the leaders? Well, that's that.
The judges.
Yeah, because I can't quote the 15 judges, can you?
I
That's
can.
good. Can you?
Yeah.
Good for you. We had to for a test and I made it. That was a while back.
I learned them in a song in VBS when we were growing up.
Really? And you still remember? Well, boy, good for you. You have to teach us all one time. Anyway, so you have that. And so during the time of the judges, the last judges was Samuel, right? And what did the people come to Samuel, come to God and say?
They wanted a king.
We want a king so we can be
Like everyone else.
like the other nations, right? And so he gave them Saul. And they got a king that I believe was like the rest of the nations, okay? And so here, what we see in the end of verse 4 is, I shall bring an end to the what? Kingdom of Israel. And so what we're talking about with the Babylonian captivity is the nation of Israel. We have the remnant that comes back, and we read books from Ezra, or the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, and they come back and they rebuild Jerusalem, rebuild the temple. We know, about the wall building, those sorts of things that took place. Who was their king? Was it an Israelite king? They were now under Gentile rule. They came back, and we would call them, a state, right? They were the state of Israel. They weren't the kingdom of Israel anymore. And so God said, if you're going to lead me and behave this way, then what am I going to take away? And remember, when you go to Acts chapter 1, remember the question that was asked by the disciples here? We go back to Acts chapter 1 and look at verse 6. Here's the question. Therefore, when they had come together, they asked Jesus, him, saying, Lord, will you at this time, what's it say? Restore the kingdom of Israel. Hosea was prophesying about an end of the kingdom, right? Okay. And so, what were the Jews constantly wanting to do? And what did the apostles struggle with? And the other Paul, they say, we can't be the people God wants us to be unless we have a physical king. Right? Well, the nation of Israel, under the reign of Moses and Joshua and the judges, that was what God wanted. The people wanted a kingdom. Okay. We understand that from the prophecy of Daniel, we see the unfolding of the New Testament, that we understand the new king is who? Christ. He reigns on David's throne, right? Okay. But it's different. But do we as a religion, as we become religious followers of God, do we have a religious kingdom that's a secular kingdom? No. Okay. So that blessing was going to be removed because of the rejection of God. So, he says in verse 5, we see a continuation of the prophecy based upon the name of the child. Each name means something, right? It's just describing the taking away of the blessing or the consequence of them leaving God. It shall come to pass, verse 5, on that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. Okay? The word bow is important because the word bow is a word, it's translated bow in our New King James, or in our New King James, but if you go back and look at the word, that word is a word used to indicate strength. What's God saying? And we look at this, what we just talked about, that I will bring an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. He says, I'm going to do what? I'm going to break the bow, the strength of Israel. What was going to happen to the nation? It ceased to exist. God's going to take that away. So we come to verse 6. See, second child, a daughter. And she conceived again and bore a daughter, and God said to him, call her name Rahama, for I will no longer have mercy on the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. And so we think about what's mercy.
Forgiveness.
Okay, forgiveness. Okay. Pardon. We think about it's something that's similar to grace, isn't it? Okay, grace, definition, unmerited favor. We see that there, the correlation in that. He said that I will have no more mercy on the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. Yet I will have mercy on the house of Judah, will save them by the Lord their God, and I will not save them by the bow, nor by the sword or battle, by horses or horsemen. And so when you look at this, we remember that we're in a time period where we're talking about a divided kingdom. I can't remember if those maps show a divided kingdom. Do they? Let's see. Go back. Not there. Don't think it does. Close. There it is. Yeah, it does. Okay. So what we have is, we remember we talked about last week that we're talking about the northern, right? He was a prophet to the northern tribes. Okay. And so, if we look at that, and we see here that what do we see on the map? The green is Israel, and the south is Judah. Are they all Israel? They are. They're all Israelites' descendants. But the descriptions are between the northern and southern kingdom. And so here, what we see is he said, I will no longer have mercy on the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. Yet I will have mercy on the house of Judah, will save them by the Lord their God. Okay? One thing we mentioned last week, and I don't know if Eric's, I think, if I remember, the character study for the year, right? He's studying different characters of the Bible. And so I don't know how many kings he's going to look at, if any. I think he might start an Old Testament study, he said. But anyway, he'll probably look at that. But we know that the northern kingdom had how many righteous kings? None. And the southern kingdom had some, right? But God still is giving them the opportunity to do what? Still giving the opportunity. So we see that. Interesting, we see it in verse 7, he said, I will not save them by bow, nor sword, or battle, by horses or horsemen. God had a plan to save them, right? But they didn't have to fight their way out. And so, I think in the book of Esther, we see how many battles are in the book of Esther. At the end is the closest thing, but that's really just self-protection, isn't it? Okay. So think about that. So we come to the third child, verse 8. She had weaned low. Yeah. I practiced them at home, and I can't do it up here. I apologize. I have to record them. It's one of those things you sing better in the shower. But she conceived and bore a son, and God said, I will call his name Lo Amai, for you are not my people, and I will not be your God. Now, you think about that. We go back to what we talked about in Isaiah, is who left who?
Israelites left God.
Okay. He said, if you're not going to be my people, then I'm not going to be your God. Okay? So we come to verse 10. It says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. Go back. The promise to Abraham was blessing that the nation would grow. And it shall come to pass in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people. There it would be said to them, you are sons of the living God, and the children of Judah, children of Israel shall be gathered together, and appoint for them one head, and they shall come out of the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel. So he says, say to the brethren, my people, and to your sisters, mercy is shown. Okay? And so we understand instructions coming, but there's going to be a better time coming also. After that happens, a turnabout has to take place. So then we come to chapter 2, and we see that God's addressing the unfaithful people. And so God's charges against your mother bring charges, for she is not my wife, nor am I her husband. Let her put away her harlotries from her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked, expose her in the day she was born, and make her like a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. And so we look at this, and what's God saying is going to happen? He says, repent, or else you're going to be laid bare. Okay? And so we see that, when we go back to the beginning of verse 2, so bring charges against your mother. Children were supposed to bring charges against their mother, for she is not my wife. Okay. And so you think about that. He says, and I'm not her husband. Why is that the case? Was it not that they didn't have the covenant relationship we discussed last week? What had happened? They weren't fulfilling the roles of that covenant. Right? You think about that. And so we apply it to the secular, or not the secular, to our family lives, our relationships. And that's what we see here, is when God tells Hosea to take this wife, we see just like in Ephesians chapter 5, we ask the question, was Jesus talking about, or was Paul writing about Christ in the church, or was he talking about husbands and wives? He's talking about both, right? Same comparison, similar, okay? So you look at this, and so we say, well, we're legally married. Does that mean there's a marriage? Right. The nation of Israel, because of the covenant, they were married at Mount Sinai, right? But what God's saying here is, we see people do this today. They say, well, we're married. He said, no, you're not. Yeah, we are. Got people who've been married X number. No, you're not. Because you have a covenant, an agreement, and when one party is not, or both parties are not fulfilling the terms of the covenant, and that's what's being discussed here, is the question that goes back to God says, in Isaiah 50, where we ask the question, he says, where's the certificate of our divorce? He's saying we're not being husbands and wives, but we're claiming to be, but there's no division there. You see what? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Okay? So people say, yeah, we're married. Yeah, but you're not being a husband and you're not being a wife.
It takes two to make it work.
It takes two to make a marriage, right? People say, well, I'm married. There's no marriage. So there's a problem there. And so we see this illustration here that he tells the children to bring up charges against your mother. Why? Because she wasn't being a wife. Therefore, they're married, but there was no marriage, and that's a problem. All right. So we go on to verse 3. He said, we read 3. So jump to 4. He says, I will not have mercy on her children, for they are the children of harlotry. Okay. And so again, we see that this is going to affect who? The children. Right? The parents failing to maintain that relationship is going to affect the children and their blessings. Right? So again, we see the condemnation coming to Israel based upon the rejection of the marriage relationship. The covenant relationship is there. So it says 4, verse 5, for their mother has played the harlot. She who conceived them has behaved what? Shamefully. Right? And so we go back and we talk about what we're talking about in Isaiah 50. And what God's saying through Isaiah is, he says, if there's no papers of divorcement, and God wasn't wanting papers of divorcement, but he's saying if there's no papers of divorcement, why are you behaving like you're divorced? Right? So he's telling them they need to step it up, do the right thing. So she behaved shamefully. For she said, I will go after my. We put this here, and we see the illustration, the figurative language is being used as far as how this is like a parable, right? Okay? And what was she going after? What she wanted. Right? Her responsibility was to her husband, God, but she didn't want to do that. Right? Children, I think about teenagers. How do teenagers behave? You're not going to tell me what to do, and I'm going to do what I want. What was Israel saying? You're not going to tell me what to do, I'm going to do what I want. But Hosea or God is saying, but we're married. Right? You're my wife. I'm your husband. There's responsibilities. There's a covenant. And we just can't say, well, I'm married with paperwork, because the nation of Israel, we're still saying, we're God's people, we need to be blessed. God said, well, if you want me to bless you as a husband, you need to behave like a wife. Okay? So, she's in middle of verse 5, where she said, I will go after my lovers. What was that? Her desires. What she wanted. Who gave me my bread, my water, my wool, my linen, and my oil to drink. And you think about this, and we need to jump ahead because we're running way out of time. We want to look at some other things. But here's the thing. Was she benefiting from her hoarding? Right? Was she? What's she saying? Give me bread and my water, my wool, my linen, my oil.
She was getting all the physical things that she wanted.
Okay. What I'm saying is she was being satisfied from stepping out of the relationship. But God says, there's no justification. Right? And so you say, people make excuses for why marriages don't work. It's marriages don't work because you don't make them work. And she said, look, I have to do this because of the benefit that comes from doing this. But she was getting benefits because she was places where she shouldn't have been, with people she shouldn't have been. She shouldn't have been in a situation to receive those blessings from those individuals, right? I say blessing, benefit, living benefit. Verse 6, therefore, behold, I will hedge up your way with thorns and wall her in so that she cannot find her paths. She will chase her lovers, but not overtake them. Yes, she shall seek them, but not find them. Then she will say, I go and return to my first husband, for when it was better for me than now, for she did not know that I gave her grain, new wine, and oil, and multiplied her silver and gold, which they prepared for Baal. Now that's interesting, because again we see this illustration, we go back and forth between relationships. And so what we ended with, and we didn't read all verse 5, but what we're saying is, Israel said, we've got to do this because look at the benefit I get from this. And God said, I gave you all that, and you used it to pursue idolatry, to worship the Baal. So now what I'm going to do is you're going to have to be cut off, right? And so you're not receiving it from them, therefore you'll have to wander back and find it from me again. Therefore, verse 9, I will return and take away my grain in its time, and my new wine in its season. I will take back my wool and my linen, given to cover her nakedness. I will now uncover her lewdness in the sight of her lovers, and no one shall deliver her from my hand. Right? God says, you had what you needed in my hand. You went outside. He said, now you're going to come back. You're not going to find it from them, and you're not going to get it here. And so what he's calling for is he's calling for penitence, isn't he? Repentance from the nation of Israel. Verse 11, he says, I will also cause all her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons, her Sabbaths, all her appointed feasts, and I will destroy her vines and her fig trees, of which she has said, these are my wages that my lovers have given to me. And so we stop right there, and we have to realize that the nation of Israel was pursuing idols. And they were attributing their prosperity to who?
Bible.
To idols. And that's not the case at all. Verse 13, I will punish her from the days of the Baals to which she burned incense. That's what we're talking about. And I know we jumped a little bit ahead, but when the nation of Israel got taken away, did they have access to the temple, to the priesthood, to all those things? God said, if you're not going to use them, and you're just abusing them, all that will go away. And so that's why when we get the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, we see it's so special, right? Can you imagine, let's say, we get to a point where God says, listen, we're going to nail the church building door shut until 3 or 4 or 5 generations later, until they get their act together and really want to worship me the right way. That's what we're doing, right? So you won't be allowed to use this place, the nation of Israel, because you abused it, you misused it. So we're going to shut it off, shut it down, close it down. That was time for them to reflect and think and come back. And so that's why we get to Ezra and Nehemiah, we mentioned. It was so special because you got generations, you got people who were now adults who had heard about the temple, who had heard about Jerusalem, had heard about proper worship to God and how sacrifices had to be offered. Okay, they were cut off. So, verse 14, therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness. I will speak comfort to her. God said, I'm going to have to take her out of that situation, take her to a place where she has no access to get back to those things. And I will give her a vineyard from there, and the valley of Achor as the door of hope. She shall sing there as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up from the land of Egypt. And go back and think about that. What happened to the nation of Israel when they left Egypt? Did they forget about what they were supposed to be doing also? Okay. And so there's some things that took place there. And shall be in the day, says the Lord, that you will call me my husband, and no longer call me my master. Right? What's the difference? What did they feel like God was doing to them? Keeping them under his thumb. And they were rebellious, right? Okay? And again, we go back to, we think about that teenager mentality. And God says, listen, I'm trying to treat you like my wife, and you feel like I'm just treating you like I'm your master, a servant. And so God says, this has to happen so that you'll realize the type of relationship we're supposed to have. Okay? You call me a husband. So, verse 17, for I will take her from her mouth the names of the Baals, and they shall be remembered by their name no more. He said, God, as we talked about, he said, I'm going to take you out of the situation, remove you from it, so you forget about those other lovers, as described in the first chapter. Okay? And so, what time flies? Look at chapter 3. Then the Lord said to me, go again, love a woman who is loved by a lover and is committing adultery, just like the love of the Lord for the children of Israel. said to her, you shall stay with me many days, you shall not play the harlot, nor shall you have a man, so too will I be towards you. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king or prince, without sacrifice, or sacred pillar, without ephod, or teraphim. Afterward the children of Israel shall return and seek the Lord their God, and David their king. They shall fear the Lord and his goodness in the latter days. Right? And so God's saying, because you've done this, he said, I'm going to take away all the distractions. I'm going to make life difficult enough on you that you're going to do what? Remember the situation of the children of Israel, or the Hebrew people when they were in Egypt? When they got to Egypt, what were they? Honored guests. They were given the best of the land. And then in the process of time, what did they become?
Slaves.
They became slaves. Right? And God called Moses to go to Pharaoh to ask them to lead the people out. Right? And so when you think about the excitement of the nation of Israel, who were forced labor. Remember what had happened as you go through those events in the plagues, in that not only were they free labor for the Egyptians and forced to do things, but with the plagues, Pharaoh also gave them what? I'll say with the plagues. As they grew and increased before that, what happened to them? They started getting,
More and more work.
it got worse and worse and worse. The situation deteriorated, which is ironic because of God's providence, right? How it works is it made it more and more desirable to get out from under that. And so to prepare them to go to serve God. Then they got to the wilderness, and what did they do?
They forgot God.
They forgot God and grumbled. And said, as bad as it was back in Egypt, we'd rather die there than die here. Okay? So you think about that. God says things are going to get difficult enough. Aaron's trying to shut us off. Don't shut us off yet. Hosea 4 and verse 6, probably the most notable verse of the book. If you knew any other verse from the book, or didn't know any others, this would be it. God said, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I will also reject you from being priests to me. Because you have forgotten the law of your God, I will also forget your children. A lot of these people would never see the captivity, right? But their children would. Chapter 6, we see some calls for repentance. We'll read the first verse here. It says, come and let us return to the Lord, for he has torn, but he will heal us. I'm talking about the principle of discipline. God was disciplining the nation of Israel. And so he has stricken, but he will bind us up. And so the call to go back, I want to look at chapter 11. It says, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. As they called them, so they went from them, they sacrificed to the Baals and burnt incense to carve images. I taught Ephraim to walk, taking them by their arms, but when they did not know that I healed them, I drew them with gentle cords, with bands of love. I was with them as those who take the yoke from their neck, and I stopped to feed them. Here we see the compassion of God. What did he do? What did he constantly do? God would nurse them along. He nurtured them. He grew them. And they got old enough and upright enough that they could stand on their own and say, I don't need you anymore. They rejected God. And so God said that, you're going to have to face these things. All right, we're going to end there. There's a lot more great